day. I'm Philip DeFries, and I want to welcome you to a program, and it's called Our World Today. Jacques, you are my guest today.
I am indeed.
But generally speaking, we don't do the guest thing. It's almost like you and I have this chat, sort of a thing where we get a hold of different issues.
And you bring the ideas and I respond to you,
Yeah.
unless I really got something to say about it.
So we kind of have this little verbal war sometimes that is going on.
Yeah.
And
which
sometimes
I
you
usually
kind of
win.
lay off because you don't like it. But nevertheless, I want to talk about something very quickly.
Okay.
This is our 10th transmission on YouTube. You didn't know that, did you?
Well, I think it's actually our 11th. But no, we're actually lying because we did a whole bunch of them beforehand when we were still figuring out some stuff. Although we're still figuring out some stuff.
We really are. And we're also looking forward to some brand new developments going into the brilliant future when it comes to our world today. But at the same time, I want to kind of talk about different issues because YouTube is a different beast from Facebook because we've always had Facebook to rely on.
Yes.
And there were certainly a lot of responders that were coming in there, but YouTube seems to be the vehicle that many people are using these days to try to get their message out all over the place. In fact, I was with some people this week where, I mean, it's their movies, some of the stuff that they've produced over the last few years, and they've got 11 million hits. I mean, what kind of money are they making from out of that? Because
I hope they're
apparently,
making money.
well, they should.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't it true
well,
that you can make money on YouTube?
yeah. YouTube had a whole structure of how you could make money with subscribers and with views. And if you go over a certain limit and stuff, you actually get paid quite well in US dollars. And then people got paid so well that YouTube decided to change it.
Oh, yes.
And they made it a little bit more, well, no, I'm lying, a lot more harder to make money from YouTube. And so a lot of the YouTubers actually lost their income because of that, which was bad. But yeah, you're right.
In what way did they make it harder? That's the question.
Well, you have to have much more viewers, or views on a particular video.
Okay.
You have to have a certain amount of subscribers.
Okay.
Which is not, it's not a couple, it's like a really lot, like a 100,000 subscribers or something like that. So it's the benchmark is really, really high.
Okay.
But you are very correct that YouTube is most probably one of the most powerful vehicles for anybody to be able to show their video production internationally. And it's not like television where it's only once, you can go watch it many times.
So how do you compare what's happening on YouTube to having something on Netflix or like Amazon Prime or something like that? How does that all blend together?
Well, it's very, very expensive to be on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that. You also do have to have a full-on professional production. And I know that a lot of television producers, well, a lot of film producers started producing for television because it's just much more of a more powerful medium, where a movie is about 2 hours and you have to cramp everything in that 2 hours. Now you've got a television series. If you take, for instance, Netflix, you can have 8 to 10 to 13 episodes to tell the same story, which you had to do in a 2-hour thing. So on those platforms, you're much more, it needs to be a full-on professional production. YouTube is for everyone. I mean, if I've seen stuff on YouTube that is absolutely amazing. From the
too. I mean, it's
weirdest,
really great stuff.
And then you get also the worst things on YouTube.
Yeah, you can because it's for everybody.
Yeah, the danger of YouTube is that unfortunately a lot of very young kids also post, and they make the most craziest videos, and they get a lot of subscribers.
I've seen some of the stuff that my grandkids are doing. All 3 of my grandkids.
True,
and you know what? that's some pretty great stuff that they're coming up with. That's my oldest grandson from my oldest son, his brother, and his sister. And I mean, she's only 12 years old, and she's
Yeah.
producing some really nice stuff.
But now the thing is, what I personally feel is that parents need to be very careful when they allow their kids to do it. Once again, we're back to the point of parents need to be involved with their kids. They need to love their kids. They need to grow their kids. They need to be totally involved with their kids. This is not a thing of the school will teach them or grow them or whatever. You need to be involved with your kids. You need to know what they're posting on YouTube if they're doing that. You need to make sure that they're not telling anybody where they are or even their real names. I mean, the first name is good, but last name and location, those kind of things, that's a no-no.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because now, unfortunately, you have got the wonderful
Stalkers.
human trafficking, stalkers,
Yes,
all those kind
all
of
that
things.
stuff.
And if you're going to allow your kids to be exposed to that, that's the bad side to it. The good side is just promoting everything, giving the kids opportunity to develop their skills and a platform where they can be viewed.
I find it intriguing that we are living in this generation where communication has obviously changed
Yes.
all over. I mean, we've got a global market. And what I find intriguing is this, that more and more stuff, in case you hadn't noticed, on YouTube is coming out now with material from inside North Korea, where a few years ago, there was nothing coming out of North Korea. I mean, you get what I'm saying? There's a brand new kind of a wave that's coming through this.
YouTube, they do have the ability to give a person a voice, that you can share your opinion freely, because now it's not like Netflix or those guys where you have to pay to view something. So naturally, your production quality and everything needs to be more of a higher grade and stuff. This is literally anybody can get in there. So unless the country, like I think in China, for instance, you cannot watch any of these internet platforms like YouTube and stuff, unless you've got a VPN.
What is a VPN again?
Okay, so a VPN, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not a pro on this area, but basically it gives you secrecy. It gives you, makes you anonymous.
Okay.
So you can be anywhere in the world, but they won't know your location or where you are. And it's all about security, your own personal privacy.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of companies that offer it at a certain rate. But yeah, like for instance, someone in China that would like to have Facebook or YouTube or something like that would need a VPN so that their location is hidden from international exposure.
Yeah. Someone in China, or some specific people in China, and all that kind of thing. Look at the smile on your face, because China's becoming part of everybody's life these days, it seems like.
Yeah. China's really becoming more involved. Oh, this is an understatement.
Yeah.
China's getting involved all over the world.
Very much involved. A lot of investment going into many, many different parts.
Yeah.
I've even heard not so long ago, and we'll get into the G20 in just a moment, because China's part of that. But I heard that a lot of people that can't do something here on the continent of Africa are actually having something made in China and then having it transported from China back to Africa. And vice versa, you're seeing the same thing that China, with certain things that they can't do there, are actually doing here on the continent of Africa.
Yeah.
It's quite stunning, actually.
As you've now, in a couple of meetings or productions or episodes, you've mentioned that I might have interest in China at this stage and things.
Big time.
This I want to share with you, something that while communicating with her, that I found that the Chinese people have a very, very serious business mind. And they look for opportunities to grow their businesses at whatever they can do to make it grow. A lot of the people that she works with are like, they drive Porsches and all your top line vehicles. The husband has got a company the wife has got a company, and it's going well. They're very strong, and they think outside of the box, and it kind of starts making you think. Isn't that the problem that we have? Is that we all can be great entrepreneurs, but it's all in the mind. Your restrictions are all in the mind. The moment when your restrictions in your mind is taken away, and you say, listen, I'm going to look for opportunities not only to better myself, but really have influence on people around me for the better, to make their worlds better. The moment that your mindset, the mind blockage is out of the way, you can accomplish whatever is possible to do.
I like that. Having kind of given that bit of an introduction to what the program is like today with YouTube and all the different platforms that you were talking about, I did want to bring out something about the G20 conference that came about most recently, where, for people that don't know it, there's a time where 20 nations from around the world get together, not the least of which, of course, is the biggest nations of the world and the up and coming economies of the world, which includes South Africa. And so they met recently in Osaka, Japan, and it was a very, very interesting kind of a development there, because as they gathered there, I mean, there were certain outworkings that came from out of that particular conference, not the least of which was everybody was watching what was going on, especially from my president. And some of the things that he is kind of prone to say, but tweet-wise, it was kind of quiet. Everybody else's tweeting was very wild, but tweet-wise, he was kind of subdued. And I thought it was fascinating.
That's different, because usually he's got a lot to say on Twitter.
Does he ever? I mean, he's used the whole tweet ability to get into the presidency and to maintain communication from the presidency. Why? Because once again, it's a platform thing.
Yeah, and he's stirring with it. You know, a lot of people would say that Trump doesn't have that he's careless. But I tell you this, I think he's
calculated.
It's very calculated.
Yes.
Every risk, everything, because it stirs and it makes things move. And for too long, everything was just kind of static and not moving, and everything was the same. Now everything is everywhere. And I think the reaction that he gets out of his tweets from everybody, that kind of proves that he's stirring.
Well, I think he learned something, not that he didn't know, but I think he saw that Barack Obama got into the White House because of Twitter.
Okay.
He got in there. Everybody knew it because he effectively utilized that facility. And Trump just said, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. But then his whole personality thing starts coming out. And I found it rather intriguing that one of the things that the world is trying to make, talk about false news, but the world is trying to make this huge conflict between the USA and China, for instance. And so...
Is it really that bad?
Well, that's why I'm saying fake news. Because they're trying, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they're trying to egg it on and trying to make it out. But the next thing you know, I mean, Mr. Jinping, along with Mr. Trump, made an incredible agreement between the two of them. In other words, the whole Huawei, we're going to press the sanctions and all that. But when they came out of the G20 conference, there was no such thing as that whole thing that just began to look like it was going to cause a breakdown, but it never happened. And of course, that's where Shenzhen is, where you have a great interest, which is where Huawei is at.
Okay. Now that's a telephone company, for somebody that doesn't know the pronunciation of Huawei.
Telkom.
Yeah. All right. So, but I wanna throw it a little bit of a different direction, if you don't mind. I know we're still in the G20 here.
Yes.
But let's just come back to our interest here, right here in George, South Africa.
Yeah.
In the last couple of weeks, somebody has stirred in local newspapers about this whole development of Sallywood. It was supposed to be a little bit more of a secret for a little while longer. just to get everything into place and stuff. Because this round, we're not going to promise people all kinds of amazing things. It just needs to happen, and then opportunities need to be there. But there are some local people that shared it in the newspapers, and the wrong information was shared. It seemed good, but it was not accurate, and it stirred a lot of comments and things. And what the people don't realize, if you don't have the bigger picture, the only thing that they see is the Chinese are coming.
Who do you think does have the bigger picture?
The guys developing it.
Thank you very much.
Were they consulted?
The bottom line is there's certain people that are power hungry and greedy, and they don't like it that their kingdom and their domain is being,
Rattled.
I mean, shaken to the core.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about shaking in a few minutes, but this is another kind of a shaking.
And total shaking, and
I
not
think
rock and roll.
The media, what does it specialize in? The media has always been good at this whole thing of taking little tidbits and kind of accentuating it because it sells newspapers.
That's the thing.
That's the bottom
Because
line.
now they take, for instance, two totally different construction projects, related or compare it to each other. It's got nothing to do with each other. They stir such a big thing. Now everybody's against the Chinese coming in, but they don't see the bigger
not
picture.
everybody.
Well,
But,
not
you know,
everybody, but
I know
enough
what you mean.
people to
Yeah.
cause unnecessary stirring and stuff like that. And now I want to take it back overseas.
And go
Okay.
back to the G20 and what
Well,
happened
we
afterwards.
we could with that, but we're gonna get to that now. You know what I've seen? You've got, let's take two big news broadcasting companies.
Yes.
I hope we're not going to get in trouble for naming names now, because I do want to name names. What's amazing for me is you've got Fox News,
Yes.
and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Fox News is very pro Trump.
I wouldn't say pro-Trump, but more moderate
Yeah, yeah.
towards him.
But then you have CNN, which has a total vendetta against Trump
Anti.
because he's been calling out all the wrongly reported news. You see, once again, Trump, he's not there for the money or whatever. I mean, he's got money. He doesn't need that. So he says whatever he wants to.
Well, let me just chip in there, because I was watching something that totally shocked me. There's been a brand new book out. It's called Trumpography, and it's a book about it's pictures
Okay.
that relate to the Trump campaign and into the presidency because
Oh,
of
and-
certain gentlemen. And you know what hit me between the eyes? That Mike Huckabee used to be governor of Arkansas, ran for president. His daughter was the most recent press secretary for Donald Trump,
Okay.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Now, she's recently said, goodbye, I'm going to go, and she's probably going to run for governor of Arkansas before it's over with. However, this gentleman came on to Mike Huckabee's program, which is also on Fox News, and or Fox whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Fox
they
is
mean, but-
everywhere in the U.S.
Yeah, and so he came on, and you know what he was talking about? He began to relate how his concept of the Word of God began to infect him as far as what Trump is doing, and it's the way he sees it is that this whole war from the media is because of how godless they are, and I think that that's a fascinating look at it. And I
Unfortunately,
really
yes.
found what was fascinating with this same guy was that he comes from from a Japanese background, and he's had an experience with Jesus along the way, and now he's got a brand new perspective. And he says so much of what is coming out of the news is just false.
Yeah.
That's
it
the
is.
whole point,
It is.
because they just want to stir up trouble.
It sells papers.
Yeah,
It sells. It makes money. It's like, why do we make wars? Not because we hate each other, but it's money. It's all about money.
yeah.
It's a great business.
It really does, and it's immoral too. Sorry, but I had to say that because
Yeah.
war in itself, it's my conviction, and I know economists will argue with me that you've got to have a war to keep the economy going. I maintain if that's what Jesus had in mind when he said, "Blessed are the peacemakers," then he would have said, "Go to war so we can have peace." Come on. I mean, let's face up to reality. We can change it if we will change it. That's the key
Yeah.
when it comes to the economy. Go back to the G20.
Let's go back to the G20.
Because from out of the G20, Donald Trump did something I so love. He went to North Korea. You remember what? You remember what happened?
Oh, I saw a great Facebook post where they showed pictures of the previous presidents and Obama and Clinton, and who was the other one?
Probably Bush.
Yeah, they're standing in that certain demilitarized
Demilitarized zone.
That's the one. That's the
Yep.
one. And where the others are watching with binoculars, Trump is actually standing there next to the Korean president or
He
whatever.
shakes hands with him
I could-
across the line.
I mean,
Okay,
I
that
mean,
he shook hands with him, and then you could hear somebody kind of did a recording, and then you could hear, "Would you like to come over to this side?" And Mr. Trump said, "Yes, I would." So they walk over. I mean, the photographers were spilling all over each other to try to record it.
now everybody says Trump is so bad, so bad, so bad. But proof of the pudding is that he's getting stuff done.
He is getting it done, and what is interesting is that goes back to what we were talking about originally. He is very, very calculated in what he's doing.
Absolutely.
He really understands. He knows how to read it. And but having said that, I'm so glad that he did just that. And then he took, after crossing into that demilitarized, across into the demilitarized area into North Korea, then he comes back and then he has a meeting in the demilitarized area with Jong-un or whatever his name is. I can't get it all out of my mouth. I just think that that's pretty shrewd.
Yeah. No, that's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive.
All right, now,
We gotta go to the all shook up. Da-da-da.
we're
Da-da.
all shook up. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
They're all shook up. So,
You are so stoked.
dude, I
That
mean,
means naughty, by the way, folks.
okay. So, the people in California.
Yes.
Oh, I gotta say this. Sorry, I gotta bring in this another story. Oh man, I remember some kind of a prophetic word going out a couple of years back about a big tear coming in the US. And I cannot remember exactly what that one was, but we were discussing that time, was it going to be a tear between the people? Because you always hear the Texas saying, hey, we want to be our own country. We don't want to be part of the United States anymore. And I guess they can actually pull it off. But then there were also talks about, but isn't the earth, the physical ground, going to tear apart? And you have that, what's that vault line close to California called?
San Andreas.
San Andreas. And we were talking about, couldn't that be it? Because they're getting some earthquakes now.
Okay, having said that, my wife and I spent a lot of time in prayer about earthquakes because our son John is there
course,
in the
of
middle
course.
of it.
Of course. And was he all shook up?
He was all shook up. And
man.
in fact, he called just recently and made us aware that it's shaken up a lot of people. But here's the point: the first shake of the quake was 6.4.
What?
6.4
That's
on the
severe.
Richter scale. That was on one day. 24 hours later, the next one came 7.1 on the Richter scale. And you're not even talking about a fault line that is at the San Andreas Fault.
Really?
Yeah.
And now I see that they're saying that they're expecting another bigger one.
Yeah, but the point is that one, if it does go bigger, will be in the San Andreas Fault, which runs basically from up in Canada all the way down into Mexico,
Yep. Yeah.
as I understand it. And it is a fault line that if it was to experience a major earthquake, it could actually, many people are saying, could create an island going out into the Pacific Ocean. And that in turn could create an ecological disaster like we cannot believe over the United States of America.
Wow.
It would have
Wow.
huge ramifications. The thing of it is that earthquakes have got fault lines all around the edge of continents. We need to understand that.
Yeah, because there's a fault line running from the top of South Africa, for instance, past us here to the north in Oudtshoorn,
Serious?
and going all the way up to Ceres and Tilbach.
Yeah,
Because
quite
they
right.
even had an earthquake in Tilbach in the 70s.
And even the Great Rift Valley here could experience something like that. And when we were living in Carltonville many, many years ago, we understood what earthquakes were like because you have your explosions that are going on underground, and then you understand what seismic activity is all about because your house is beginning to show signs of being hit by wear and tear, and fissures in your plaster is starting to come about. But it also extends into India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and you're talking about the Far East as well. There's fault lines there. And then you start talking about tsunamis. And I just think about these kind of things because I'd rather listen to what God says. You know, and the Bible in Matthew 24 says something very significant, Jacques, which is in the, let's see here, it's the 7th verse. It says, nations and kingdoms will go to war against each other. People will starve to death. Signs of the times. And in some places, there will be earthquakes. So even in the Middle East, there can be earthquakes. In fact, the Bible seems to indicate, I think it's in the book of Zechariah, that there could be earthquake that could rend itself right through the temple area in Jerusalem, opening up the Dead Sea to the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I mean, that would be a major kind of a development.
I even heard in some of the other productions that we do, that was said that Jerusalem might end up to be a coastal city.
Well,
That should be interesting.
That would really be prophetical.
It would be a little bit fishy, but still.
Lots of fish coming in there.
Okay, but now we need to round off this program, and you know that I want to end off with this one story that we read on CNN.
Okay.
And that's about the 800-pound shark
Okay.
swimming around the shores of New Jersey. And you would know much better than I would. New Jersey's coastline is a serious holiday area, isn't it? Like Atlantic City and
Very
those kind of
serious.
places.
Very serious.
So are we talking about a Jaws scenario? Because you remember the movie Jaws, which was very freaky.
I've been on the set of Jaws at Universal Studios in Burbank.
Ah, show off.
Yep.
Yeah. So what do you think about an 800-pound shark?
I think that you can get bigger sharks right here in Mossel Bay, right next to us.
Okay. But now you started with the local ones. Did you know that there's a shark? Apparently, there's a shark in Falls Bay in Cape Town area that they actually call the submarine because he's so humongous.
So humongous.
Yeah, that is scary. Would you swim in the water if you knew that there was an
I've
800
never come
pound shark?
anywhere near the sea for that very reason, because you never know what's going to hit. There's too many people that have been hit by hungry sharks, and no, thank you. Don't want to go there.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Having said all that, sir, I would also like to say that we're going to reserve some remarks for next week when we come back together again that we would have done in today, but we got so carried away in some of the discussions
This was
that
a lucky chat.
yeah, and I think we'll talk about the movie world. We'll talk about a young guy that was going to be Africa's first astronaut.
In space,
And, yep, we'll talk about him next week, and we'll also talk about some of our recent guests that have really made an impact on all of us, plus some amazing other stories. And having said all that, I want to say thank you to everybody for watching. I want to say thank you to you, Jacques, for being a guest one more time, but a more of a discussion comrade in arms here, kind of a thing. Also to my dearly beloved gentleman behind the scenes, Stefan Klopers, and to Damian Hennessy, thank you for all of your support in getting this whole thing together. And on that note, I just want to say that it's time for us to say goodbye. And I trust that having watched this program today, that you, beloved, will become our favorite marketers. We want to get this word out. And we think that we got something unique to give, because from my friend Jacques with his South African background and me from my American background, we've got a pretty well-rounded look at things. So please get the word out. Get people to go to Our World Today, Philip DeFries, and let them hit subscribe and click on the bell as well, so everybody can be notified that this program is coming on, because it's going to get better all the time. Having said that, goodbye for now. God bless you. Tot ziens, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye.